MIAA Monday with MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy back in the new year 2022, our first episode after a couple weeks of holiday vacations, I guess you want to call it that. But Commissioner Racy, thank you as always for coming on.
Great to be here, Chris. Happy New Year to you, and happy New Year to all of those out there in MIAA land.
Feels like it's been a while since we talked, and it's been really about 3 weeks, but a lot's happened in those 3 weeks across the MIAA. If you didn't know this at this point, you've been living under a rock, but a lot of scheduling changes with MIAA basketball because of COVID-19 protocols, a lot of making things work and having to adjust on the fly again this year after we saw quite a bit last year, but just a really wild week and a half, 2 weeks kind of after that holiday break too.
Yeah, to quote the great Yogi Berra, deja vu all over again, Chris. Felt like we were, right back where we were a year ago with, having teams having to pause the season. The good thing about the MIAA, we have pretty tight protocols that got us through last year, and as you know, we were able to postpone and reschedule and play 45 contests, men's and women's basketball games impacted by COVID. And, we're not there yet. I think last count, we've had 15 cancellations, men's and women's basketball in the MIAA. And the good news is, Chris, that these student athletes and coaches, no one's seriously ill. These are a lot of breakthrough cases, a lot of students, coaches that are, fully vaccinated, but still testing positive. I'm sure, some of this is Omicron variant that we're dealing with. But yeah, it's been a rough start to the new year. As I said, 15 games that have been knocked out so far. About 3 or 4 programs that have gone full pause. Men's and women's shutting down for a few days just to get things under control. But all these decisions being driven by our campus medical personnel, our athletic trainers working with campus doctors, community doctors, trying to make a decision. What's best, whether to play that program or play that game as scheduled or postpone and reschedule. And that's the protocols that we have in the MIAA that we've allowed since day one of COVID for games that we postpone, that we try to reschedule them. We don't consider them forfeits. We try to get these games played. And in the event that we can't, if we run out of days before we get everything in, it'll be a no contest. But we're doing everything we can to try and get these games back on the schedule, and hopefully we'll have it like last year where we play everything.
You and I have talked about it before. Last year there was that preparation maybe for a lot of scheduling changes and knowing that's probably going to happen. This year, I think maybe all of us kind of like, okay, hopefully, COVID's getting behind us a little bit. Obviously not the case, but what's it been like this time around to kind of get this scheduling, rescheduling, and like you said, working with the athletic directors and the communities across the MIAA to get these games back in or find a place where they can fit?
Yeah, fortunately in the MIAA, we've got a great group of administrators, athletic directors. They get along. They talk constantly, and they do a great job of coming to agreement on when they can, fit these games in. You're absolutely right. Last year we didn't have a schedule that included non-conference games. It was only a conference schedule. We started the conference schedule earlier before Thanksgiving, and it gave us some flexibility on things being spread out enough that we had some windows when we could plug some games in. We don't have that luxury this year, especially with all of this going on, just right after we get back from Christmas break. So There will probably be a few schools that find themselves, Chris, playing certainly 3 games, maybe 4 games in the same week to try to get all these games scheduled. And our athletic directors know that, whether you're a team that's 2-10 or a team that's 10-2, student athletes want to play. They're there on our campuses to get an education and to compete and play in these games. So our administrators will do everything they can, and our conference office will support that in trying to get all of these games fit in wherever we can find room in the schedule.
Where does the league sit right now when it comes to protocols and everything? Because like everything else, we've seen it kind of change over the last couple of weeks. The CDC's kind of shortening a lot of the protocols at this point too. But where's the league kind of standing with everything right now?
Yeah, so we've informally as a conference embraced what the CDC has put out regarding the shorter periods for isolation and quarantine. Decisions on testing, who gets tested, how often, those are all driven by each campus, and campus leaders, decision makers, making those decisions based on a variety of issues, variables, including rate of transmission and community disease spread, and what's going on in your community as it relates to COVID. So and that's similar to how we did things last year, but we have as a conference informally embraced and encouraged our schools, working with their local health officials to try and use those new CDC guidelines to allow student athletes to come out of isolation or quarantine earlier than what the CDC had recommended before. Certainly an ability to test out of quarantine is certainly encouraged by the conference. But Chris, we won't formally adopt that until tomorrow. We have a meeting scheduled with our MIAA task force. They met a week ago. They wanted to, before they officially endorsed the CDC recommendations, they wanted to see where the NCAA was going to come out on all of that. And we found out this last Wednesday and Thursday, that the NCAA in their new protocols for what they're anticipating doing at winter NCAA championships, that they are embracing those CDC recommendations, and that'll give the green light tomorrow to our task force to sign off on that, and we'll have, I'm sure, some sort of an announcement from the conference that these are formally endorsed by the MIAA.
There's been a lot of doom and gloom in the last probably 18, 20 months when it comes to COVID and everything, kind of outlooks and everything. But what's your optimism for things being able to kind of continue on as they have, even with the rescheduling that's had to be done too?
Yeah, I think and we've heard this from some of the national health officials from the White House that we're going to have to find a way to live with this and move forward, recognizing that COVID, some variant of COVID, may be around for a while. And I think we're just going to have to get back to the business of taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other. We continue, Chris, to recommend that our institutions follow those things that we were talking about during the early days of the pandemic. Washing your hands, wearing a mask indoors, socially distancing, especially indoors. If you're not feeling well, stay home. Don't go to places where you're around people if you're not feeling well. So we need to continue to do those things to really individually manage this, to do our part in making sure that that we're staying healthy. We're doing things that help our neighbors stay healthy. But we're going to have to, as far as higher education and certainly intercollegiate athletics, find a way to kind of manage this moving forward. And I think the CDC guidelines, recommendations, the things that the NCAA said last week, it's helping us get that direction. There's certainly a shortage of tests, which is concerning. I think most of our schools now, Chris, are in a place where they're only testing individuals if they're showing symptoms. And I think that's positive. I think, certainly if someone, a coach or a student athlete, if they have symptoms, we need to get them tested, figure out, what's going on. But, certainly doesn't make a lot of sense to me that asymptomatic individuals would go through a regular testing routine. And but yeah, I think you're right, Chris. I think hopefully we get through this wave and we get to a place where we're managing this like any other type of illness, flu, seasonal cold, whatever it is. And we find ways to move forward in higher ed, intercollegiate competition, and do the things we need to do to take care of each other.
Full disclosure, during that, you probably heard my dog whining a little bit. You can still hear her. So anybody that's listening probably will hear my dog at some point because she wants attention. So I had to mute myself for a little bit because, about halfway through, she decided that she wanted to talk to. So anybody that hears that, that's my dog. That's not me whining.
Well, some episode, maybe we'll just let your dog interview my dog, and
she'll talk. She'll talk the whole time, and then she'll look forward and she'll just run away.
Yeah, and mine will answer. So could be 5 minutes of good programming there. So
probably listen to them more than they'll listen to us half the time. So there it is. But kind of, I guess, moving past COVID and kind of scheduling everything, kind of big time for the NCAA coming up too with the national convention and everything. What's the latest that you can kind of tell us about what's going to happen with the upcoming convention too?
Well, so far, we're getting information from folks in Indianapolis and with the NCAA that the convention's still on. And there will be a lot of, obviously, mask and social distance requirements with our indoor meetings, some of the luncheons and receptions and other special events will probably be modified and change. But as we've talked, Chris, this is a big meeting a week from Thursday in Indianapolis. The NCAA convention will have a business session that actually is centered on the idea of changing the NCAA, changing the Constitution, providing even greater autonomy to the divisions and what each division is able to do on its own. This sets the stage, I think, for some significant changes during the next 12 to 18 months in Division I. I think it also sets the stage for a number of things that Division II will look at. Everything from the way we bring in new members to the way that our budget and finances work in Division II to some of the things that we have in place related to championships and regionalization and all of those policies. This is the opportunity for Division II to relook at all of that. Jim Johnson, the AD at Pitt State, who is the chair of the Division II Management Council, is our representative for the MIAA in all of these kind of implementation and transition discussions at the NCAA level. But yeah, some big meetings. We have our winter meeting scheduled for our presidents on Friday, a week from this Friday. We do that in Indianapolis. We do it at the convention every year. We're trying to figure out how many of our presidents are still planning to travel to Indianapolis. It may be a situation, Chris, where we have a half dozen presidents that are sitting in their hotel room on a virtual meeting with other presidents that are on their campuses that couldn't travel to Indianapolis. So it'll be a little bit of a strange convention as we try to manage that. But yeah, there are a lot of people, Chris, that still are, not real fired up about jumping on a plane and traveling right now. And we're doing a little bit of a carpool from the conference office. Amber Feldman and I are jumping in a car, and we're leaving next Tuesday, driving to Indianapolis, and thought that might be a little better than air travel. But it's a big meeting. MIAA folks should, pay close attention, not just how this impacts the MIAA in Division II, but some real big discussions that are going to start to take place at the Division I level. What does Division I membership mean? What's it look like? How do they compete against each other? A lot of heavy decisions that Division I is going to have to look at in the next few months.
We've talked quite a bit about everything that's kind of changing with college athletics, everything too. But I guess getting down to it, why is this moving so quickly? Maybe just kind of 6 months ago, we were starting to talk about everything and the NIL deals were coming out, but now it's kind of, we've snowballed to, here we go, discussions are starting, and we don't know how quickly this could keep going too.
Yeah, I think that there's this sense of urgency, Chris, from everyone associated with these discussions, especially people at the national office, because I think there's a recognition that if the NCAA as an organization doesn't get busy trying to address these issues, Congress is going to step in. And I think there's a lot of unknowns about what that means, what that would look like if there was congressional oversight of intercollegiate athletics. It would be a lot different than it is today. Maybe some of that's positive, but a lot of it would not be. And I think as an organization, as a higher education association, people associated with intercollegiate athletics want to be involved in trying to identify solutions instead of having them handed to us by Congress. So I think that's really, that's why this first step next week will happen at the NCAA convention, and then a quick turnaround on next steps and what else needs to take place. The urgency is really to get this done before Congress feels like they need to step in and fix things.
If you had to pinpoint maybe something for MIAA fans or Division II fans to maybe pay close attention to next week, I guess what would maybe one of the biggest ones, or like you said, there's a lot going on, but is there something you can pinpoint that, hey, this is something on the radar that Division II MIAA fans need to pay close attention to?
Well, one of the things that will be looked at, there's some convention legislation that Division II will be looking at, Chris, related to transfers, and has to do with the transfer portal, and there's a lot of activity in the portal. In the MIAA, even though we recognize that students, for a variety of reasons, may have reasons that or issues that may make them want to look at another place to continue their education. We've maintained in the MIAA the rule that if you're going from one MIAA school to another, you have to sit out a year. And I think that's good. I think that's a positive thing for us to have in our conference, to remove that perception that there's tampering or recruiting of other teams' players We just want to make sure that, that's not taking place, that any incentives for that are removed. And that if you're going to transfer in the MIAA from one school to another, that you need to, you need to make sure that that's for an educational reason or, a family reason, and not for an athletic reason. So we make you sit for a year. But there'll be some discussions, Chris, during the NCAA Division II business session a week from this Saturday that will be focused on transfer students and how we want to handle that at the Division II level. That's probably the one news item coming out of this convention that's probably the biggest area of focus for Division II, and that most MIAA fans would be interested in.
I think we've talked about every podcast since we started, basically with name, image, and likeness. Wanted to get your thoughts. Nick Saban kind of touched on it the other day about the positives of name, image, likeness, but also at the same time, does it level playing field? Does it give others more, opportunities in other schools? How does the MIAA kind of continue to look at this? Because obviously Division I's NILs are drastically different than Division II's NILs for some athletes, at least, where you have the 7 figures for the Division I athletes. But where does the MIAA kind of look at that, the positives? But is there a need for someone to kind of, or NCAA, or someone to kind of trying to find the right word here, my mind's going blank, to kind of oversee maybe everything that kind of goes on with the NIL deals too?
Yeah, no doubt. The key to any type of perceived advantage that a school would have in intercollegiate athletics is that there's some entity that's helping to, police that activity, to make sure that, that the advantages that one might have are square within the rules, that you're following, the policies or regulations as they were intended, and that, the things that you're trying to do are fair. And so I think whatever we do, whether we're talking about transfers or name, image, likeness, or other recruiting type legislation or financial aid, you want everyone to be playing, at a level where, you're within the boundaries and doing it the right way. We certainly support that. At the same time, we also recognize, and I think the MIAA has maybe been out in front a little bit among Division II conferences in recognizing how positive name, image, likeness is for student athletes. And the difference between name, image, likeness in Division I and name, image, likeness in Division II is that a name, image, likeness opportunity in Division I is usually going to benefit a student athlete that's on a full scholarship, and included in that full scholarship is a stipend of additional money to help cover things like gas and transportation and weekend meals and other type of just general student needs. In the MIAA and in Division II, certainly in the MIAA, name, image, likeness opportunities will almost always benefit students who are on a partial scholarship. And the name, image, likeness opportunity, whatever that is, a couple $100 a week, a couple $100 a month, or endorsing products, or lending your image to a commercial, or whatever you're doing, doing private lessons, having your own camper clinic. Those are resources that are going to help our students pay for college. And it will help a lot of student athletes in Division II, Chris, probably avoid the need to go out and take out a student loan to reduce or stay out of debt by the time they're done playing and they graduate. So name, image, likeness, I would argue, is even more beneficial for the student experience in Division II than it is in Division I, because a lot of these resources are going to help our Division II student athletes pay for their college education.
I think if we said it before, we could probably go hours and hours of conversations about getting into the real weeds of name, image, likeness, and the transfer portal, and everything else. But we'll save that maybe for after the convention, or at least, once we start, getting a little bit further down the hill of the snowball, just kind of keep rolling down. But you brought up another topic, as we were looking for topics to discuss today. You tweeted out on Sunday about just, the selflessness and, the leadership we see across the MIAA. And I've seen it too, just kind of when you said that, I was thinking back, I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I don't really think about it when I see it, but you'll see, especially when I'm at games, excuse me, you'll see, well, I think it may have been the Bearcat Bash, and we'll get to that in a minute because I played in a game there. We'll get to that in a little bit. I think that's where it was. And I see Andy Peterson up there on a scaffold putting things up, and he's in there putting stuff up. And I'm like, I've seen him do it plenty of times. And I've seen Missouri Western officials do it so much where, I don't know if that's really in their job description to have to be up there hanging banners or making things sure they're right in the right place. But I see that a lot. And I think you bringing that up just maybe, affirm that even more, that we do see that. And they're not just people in suits that are making decisions sitting at the top of, the institutions around us.
Yeah, I reacted to a tweet that a photographer in Oklahoma had captured Stan Wagner, the AD at University of Central Oklahoma, actually sweeping the basketball court. I think there may have been some perspiration or water on the court near the free throw line, and they've got a photo of him with a dry mop, just getting that up. He's doing that in between 2 or 3 Central Oklahoma basketball players, and I know he didn't hesitate to do that. It needed to be done. He was standing there and decided to do it, and it did resonate with me. I've been around Division II so long, and I've gotten to know so many Division II administrators, and they're definitely throughout the MIAA conference that have this spirit of humility and service, and they do it because they truly believe in the type of experience that student athletes have on Division II campuses, and they want to take care of these young people. They want to make sure their experience is good. They want to make sure their experience is safe, that it's in a healthy environment, and it's it's a job of really servant leadership. And I felt, I wanted to post that because it's something I see, and I'm not saying that it doesn't exist in Division I or Division III. There are a lot of great people in Division I and Division III, but it's really probably a job requirement in Division II. Division I, they have people. The AD has people. The commissioner has people. If you need something done, there's a long list of people that need something to do in Division I, and sometimes even in Division III with very large athletic departments. Division II, we're resourceful, we're innovative. We work with small staffs and small budgets, and we have to figure out a way to get things done. And it's really it's a great sight to see an athletic director, a leader of a department, a leader on campus that's willing to serve and do whatever needs to be done to make sure that game gets that game or that event takes place.
I tell you what, when I saw Andy up on that scaffold, just going up there in the little awning, it's like, maybe 6 foot long and maybe 2 or 3 feet wide. I was like, I don't do heights. I was like, nope, you wouldn't catch me up there if you paid me, because it's like wobbly. And I was like, no, I can't do heights. Heights are so he's doing stuff that, you know, the guy that's afraid of heights won't do. So there it is.
But, yeah, I might be with you there. I might draw the line on getting up above 10, 15 feet. But yeah, you know, Andy Peterson, Teresa at Missouri Western, they're just like Stan Wagner at Central Oklahoma, and all of our other ADs in the MIAA. They are willing to do whatever it takes. They are humble leaders, a service attitude, and really, I think the definition of servant leadership that we see play out on MIAA campuses.
Yeah, and I should mention on the Missouri Western side of things, I know there's been a lot of, you know, turnover the last couple months there, and you know, you go to games and you'll see, you know, some of them having to stat when usually they're doing something else. And you know, Brett Easley there for years was doing just about everything. He's got a new job at this point, but people like that, Teresa with grist giving gifts and stuff like that. So I want to make sure mention them and not just Northwest and everything along the way, because stay impartial. But you're not going to be very impartial on this part, since you wanted to talk about it today, that social media locally kind of enjoyed that Mitchell Ribberall, the other sports reporter at KQ2 with me, decided to, well, he found the highlight or low light, however, everybody else calls it a highlight. I call it maybe the low light of my celebrity basketball playing back in October, where you can go find the tweet, but airballed the only shot I took, and it was about 2 minutes into the game, and I don't think Coach McCollum wanted me to shoot ever again. That was the end of that, I think, at that point in the ball game.
Yeah, a chance to have a little fun with you. I did see that highlight, and it made me smile. You know, Teddy Roosevelt, you know, talked about being in the arena, and you know, never losing that part of us that want to be in competition and, you know, in sport for the reason of competing. And I was happy to see you out there. And yeah, I'm sure Coach probably was looking down the bench to see
anybody else.
Yeah. Come on, let's get a sub in there. But no, as I mentioned to you as we were talking, getting ready for today's podcast, the thing that always happens when you have a friend that's you know, wanting to have some fun with whether it's a bad pitch when you're throwing out the first pitch, or an air ball in a benefit basketball game. They don't show all the highlights of the other good shots, or the great passes, or the rebounds, or, you know. So I'm sure there's a large part of your game, Chris, defensively and you know, on the offensive side, that we didn't get to see from that highlight.
Well, that was back in October, and at that point, I don't think I'd played organized basketball in probably a year and a half, 2 years. So there wasn't a lot of moving, so to speak. I was guarding Matt Tritton from up at KXCV and the Bearcat Radio Network up there, and I was like, you know, we kind of talked about it. We'll go at the same pace. And the first possession, he's out here running around. I'm like, we're not going at the same pace. That was a lie. But if you go back and watch the, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, because it just brings more, you know, sorrow to me. But, you know, if you go back and watch the shot, I can't remember who it is. I think it's someone on the women's team, was sitting behind the bench, and you can see them put up the 3 points, getting excited. And as soon as the air ball, the hand goes down very, very fast, and they just pretend that didn't happen. So that was, I also noticed that. I was like, well, that was demoralizing.
They were there with you. They were ready to join in your celebration. But yeah, it's all in fun, and you know, great event, great evening to be a part of that. And yeah, I hope folks go out and check it out. The form is good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
it's a nice shot. It just didn't get to the destination.
Remind me to bring you with me to places where I need hype back up, because that was probably the nicest thing anybody said since the highlights came out. So I don't know if I'll be asked to do any other charity or celebrity games at that point, unless they want that as the enjoyment is me missing shots or airballing. And I low key had to play in a game a couple of years ago against the Harlem Globetrotters up in Maryville at the high school. Oh goodness, probably when I first started at KQ2. I airballed a shot from the baseline. Luckily, there's no video, but they stopped the game. Of course, it's the Globetrotters, so they're going to stop the game. And I do push-ups right in the middle of the court and everything. And they stopped everything. And they told us whoever airballs first is going to have to do this. And I was not even that far away from the basket. And I pulled it. I was like, yeah, that looks good. And it went just short. And I was like, huh. And they stop everything. And so maybe I should have stopped playing.
Well, no. I think if we have a lot of people watching this, Chris, and they send me an email, demanding another appearance, we might have to see what we can come up with at the MIAA basketball tournament.
Oh no!
In municipal. We'll let you work on that, and maybe we'll find another member in the media that wants to have a 3-point competition or a game of horse or something, and we'll see how the MIAA fans react to that.
You're really backing me into a corner here, so I appreciate that one. Give me Marshall. Actually, don't give me Marshall. I know he can shoot sometimes, so don't give me Marshall.
He's got a shot. Yeah.
All right, MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always, and let's get these basketball games in, shall we? Not me playing, but the actual, conference games in.
Let's do it. Let's get this behind us, and let's make a good run to March and crown some MIAA champions, and hope they have a long run in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always.
You bet. Good to see you, Chris.